18th. For those that have not had the pleasure of attending our wonderful gatherings, if you could please turn off your cell phones first so we don't get bothered during the meeting. Second of all, the way things work is after we call the roll and review the minutes from last time, city staff will present on an item. They first open it up to the commission for technical questions. Once we're done with technical questions, we open it up to the public for commentary and questions. If you have anything to say, please step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the benefit of our minutes. Once public commentary is completed, we bring it back to the commission for a discussion and a vote, hopefully. With that, let's call the roll.
David Borsak.
Present.
Ed Bowen. Jeffrey Tomes. Thomas Voitek.
Here.
John Hintz.
Here.
Steve Cummings.
Here.
Kathleen Propp. John Kiefer.
Here.
Donna Laurie. Robert Weigert.
Here.
Carl Nollenberger.
All right, approval of the minutes from October 18th. Do we have any corrections or additions, deletions of said minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. I guess.
Opposed?
We weren't, abstain, I will have to say, because we weren't here.
Okay, I'm just kidding. All right, moving on to item number 1. Conditional use permit to establish a new auto body repair and automotive service and sales use at 1901 South Washburn Street.
Hey, thank you. Right. As was stated, the applicant is requesting a motor vehicle, or is requesting to establish a motor vehicle service and sales use at 1901 South Washburn Street, which is only permitted within the C2 General Commercial District through the approval of a conditional use permit. The subject property is a 35,000 square foot parcel located approximately 600 feet north of the intersection of West 20th Avenue and South Washburn Street. The general area is characterized by single-family residential uses to the northwest and a mixture of commercial and retail uses to the south and west. Despite what your staff report says, the rear of the property abuts railroad tracks, which are currently being used as a loading facility, but there are efforts to relocate this facility in 2017, and then this land behind the subject site would act as a buffer between the rear yards of the residential properties facing Allerton Drive and the commercial uses oriented towards Washburn Street. You can see on the screen the subject site is currently developed with a single 9,500 square foot split block building, which has 3 existing storefronts facing South Washburn Street, and it was built in 1996. The subject property is accessed from South Washburn Street by a shared Class 2 driveway leading to the lot's interior via 26-foot wide drive aisles running along the western side and front of the principal building. The petitioner has indicated that based on existing business demand, there is a need for additional space to operate their business, which is Tony's Collision Center, and is adjacent or located adjacent to the subject site here. The current property where their existing business is does not afford the space for an addition, and the proposed conditional use request, if approved, will allow them to expand their existing business and not relocate outside of the area. The extent of the proposed conditional use permit, it's kind of hard to see up on the screen here, but I can pass around some pictures of the site and kind of give you an idea of what it looks like here. So we'll go around here. That's an air photo of the existing site. So the extent of the conditional use includes exterior temporary storage of vehicles awaiting service or repair, exterior display of vehicles awaiting sale, and automobile service and auto body repair within the primary building. Hours of operations for the use is proposed to be 6 days a week between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., which is consistent with the other uses in the area. The only proposed modifications to the building will include a 9-foot by 12-foot overhead door, which will be placed on the rear facade of the building, and it'll allow vehicle access into the existing facility. Parking associated with the subject site consists of a total of 40 existing stalls, and the petitioner is proposing to utilize approximately 13 of the existing parking stalls for the proposed use. Parking will be accommodated with the parallel spaces on the north side of the property, and additional employee and customer parking would be located along the front facade of the building. The remaining stalls will be utilized for vehicles awaiting repair and vehicles currently displayed for sale. So essentially, you'll have the employee parking in the rear, front, and then you'll have vehicles awaiting service and sales closer to Washburn Street. Right now, the petitioner is only proposing to utilize one storefront and associated existing parking on the subject site, which, like I said, it's hard to see here up on the screen, but these are the stalls that they would use. And over time, if the demand continues to increase, the applicant may rent or purchase the 2 remaining storefronts located on the subject site. And should the petitioner expand, the proposed conditional use associated parking would mirror what is currently proposed with this storefront. Staff is supportive of the proposed conditional use as they're not out of the scope of other uses in the area. Additionally, staff is not concerned with the interplay of the multiple uses being conducted on the property, primarily because the proposed use is located adjacent to the petitioner's existing business, and the subject property will mainly be used to meet business demand. To help alleviate concerns that the site will become congested with inoperable vehicles, staff is recommending that parking within all parking spaces on site be limited to vehicles that are in a condition for legal operation on the public roadway and not include general construction equipment, tow trucks, or trailers. And also, any vehicles towed to the site awaiting pickup or disposition are limited to inside the principal building or approved enclosed storage areas. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the proposed conditional use permit with the following conditions. Vehicles parked within any parking stalls be in a condition of safe legal operation on the public roadway at any time, and storage of towing equipment, towed vehicles awaiting pickup or disposition. Parts or miscellaneous construction equipment is limited to inside the principal building or enclosed storage areas.
That is the same photo there.
This is not the same as that one.
That's the one, that's,
Here, let me
you can have
help.
another one, it's the same.
Them down there.
All right, thank you very
Sorry,
much.
we got them going left and right.
Jeez.
Technical questions?
These-
David?
What are the ownerships of the 2 different parcels?
Currently, the parcels, which parcels?
The existing parcel and then the subject parcel, or where the current, so it'd be the parcel to the east and,
So this one here?
yeah.
So the petitioner, it's my understanding, the petitioner currently owns where the existing facility is. And then this, the subject site is owned by DLB Development LLC.
That answer your question?
Yeah, I'm gonna mull something up.
Okay. Other technical questions? David, you done
No, no,
well?
I'm
You can wait till
thank you,
later?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Anybody here from the public to speak to this item today? We'd love to hear from you.
I'm Tony Combs, the petitioner, and I guess I was asking if there was any questions at all.
Any questions for Tony? Go ahead, Kathy.
You've got room inside your larger building there to store inoperable type vehicles?
And we're using the outside storage area for that. We move them in and out all the time, and we have the outside area for that.
At the outside area behind the building?
Next to, well, there's a, right next to the.
Up on the
yeah,
screen.
right in the middle there.
Oh, right in there.
There's a fenced-in storage area for that.
Oh, all right, okay,
For that area.
okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner as long as he's here? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Once, twice, okay, public commentary is closed, back to the commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Hints,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Forsyth,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Alrighty, moving on to item number 2, update to City of Oshkosh zoning ordinance, chapter 30 and zoning map miscellaneous changes.
You coming up, Jeff? As you know, during the court, we've been working on the new zoning ordinance and map, and during our course of the review, we're continuously looking at the mapping. We get comments in from the public to consider different things, and we haven't officially made the, we haven't officially adopted a new zoning map yet. What we're going through is, based on some of the comments that we're hearing and feedback, we're proposing to make some mapping changes that Jeff is going to go over today. We've also identified some, in between last week and today, we've identified some other changes. So what we want to do is bring before you each of those changes for some comment and input. So when we move forward to the council, hopefully on December 13th for adoption, we'll have these will be brought forward as part of that package. Also, as part of today, we're also proposing some ordinance language change, and you can see some of that in the staff report. Some of the things, again, based on some of the feedback that we've heard, we're proposing to make some adjustments based on that. And lastly, the University Transitional Overlay District, which had some debate here at the Plan Commission, has also got some concern from the Historic Jackson Drive Neighborhood Association. I actually went out there to meet with them. We've actually developed, as you can see, 8 or 9 different alternatives to the current UTO boundaries that we're just looking for some feedback on which one you think that we should move forward with. So Jeff's going to start with the map change. I'm going to go into the ordinance changes, and then we'll go into the UTO.
Beautiful.
Okay, yeah, so far we have 15 minor map changes that we're recommending to approve. First one being, this is located on the southeast corner of Ripple Avenue and Poberezny Road. This was previously zoned.
Currently zoned.
Currently zoned SMU PD, and we are proposing urban industrial. Reason being, it reflects the current M1 zone district, which it currently lies in, and matches the comprehensive land use plan. Second change is over by the university area, just east or southeast of Wisconsin Street. The current proposed zoning map had this area identified for TR10, which is a two-family residence style district. We took a closer look to the existing land uses in the area and determined that a higher density zone district would be more appropriate, so we're recommending changing it from the TR10 to an MR36, and it better reflects the current zoning, which is R5 multifamily residential district. That's the second one. The third change, this little piece right here, this is the proposed site for the water tower within the Marion Road redevelopment area. A certified survey map was just submitted to the city and split off this little parcel right here. And I thought it was a good time to change the zoning to institutional from its current urban mixed-use zoning with planned development overlay. The institutional zoning is suited for government buildings and structures and other exempt entities. The fourth change on the right side here, this is a little piece of land or strip of land acquired by the city recently. What it's doing is it connects to the north and to the south. The city is in the process of constructing 2 stormwater detention basins. And this piece linking them in the middle was acquired from this residential use property, which is currently zoned MR20. The city is proposing to change that MR20 zoning to institutional to match with other city storm infrastructure.
Jeff, don't move yet. Because we have a number of these, do you want to discuss? Do you want us to go through it, or do you want to discuss each of them as we go along before we move to the slide, or do you want to just go back? If there's any, when I say discuss, if there are any questions regarding any of them, do you want to handle it that way, or do you want us to just roll through it?
My questions are the ones at the end.
Okay.
But will it be appropriate if we
I'll pause and
necessary
see.
to break them out separately?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a problem. We just, while it's up on the screen, it's easy to talk about it if there's a question that pops into mind right away. So if not, we'll just keep rolling through.
Okay, this next one, this is by a university. This was a oversight. The current zoning is C campus district, which was an earlier versions of the code text. We are changing it to C1. It's currently used as a university parking lot, and the institutional zoning that we're now proposing better fits the rest of the university campus area. Same goes for, wrong button. This piece here, this is by Whitman Field Airport. This long strip of land was formerly Knapp Street, which was vacated a couple years ago. This remnant piece of the vacation went to the EAA, and it's currently Zone C. We're recommending to change it to an I zoning to match with the rest of the airport and EAA-owned properties. Any questions on those? Okay, this next one, this was brought about by the property owner. This is located on Idaho Street. Just south of, this is the city's Parks Department. This is a central garage location, water warehouse. It's currently zoned with a neighborhood mixed-use zone district. The property owner is currently has his property on the market. It's currently used for a single-family home, and he had concerns with potential buyers being able to secure financing for it, and he asked us if we could rezone it to SR5, which is more of a single-family type zone district. So we took a look at it and determined that it was probably in his best interest to change that zoning form before it goes through.
Question?
Sure.
What's all the surrounding property just to the left?
This over here?
Brownish stuff.
Yeah, that's a SR9. That's a higher density single-family residence district. The 9 represents 9 dwelling units per acre, where the 5 is 5 dwelling units per acre, which is a little less dense for counts.
Okay, any reason why?
It's larger parcel size, so the SR5 zoning, typically we want to see larger parcels.
Oh, okay. It's not spot zoning then, I mean, but maybe we're
No,
doing
it's-
more of
Well,
what used to be called spot zoning.
yeah, there is an SR5 right here, so that's why we tied it in,
Oh, okay.
those two together.
It's a bigger spot.
Yeah.
The large spot.
David?
And the comprehensive plan recommends this area for residential uses as well.
But what is the yellow, the SR5 currently being used as?
This is a single-family home here and here.
Currently?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right next to
Parks Department.
Parks, the whom?
The Parks Department?
This is the
Oh,
parks
that's the
here.
park. Okay, fine.
This is
And
their
the nursery.
Nursery.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Questions on that one yet? Okay. The one on the right, this is the Buckstaff property. We originally had it zoned for heavy industrial. The city's in the process of
We're in the process of tearing, as you can see, highly visible, we're in the process of actually dismantling the building and the site. So as part of that process, as the future goes forward, the city at some point will be in the chain of title. So what we want to do is we want to add the planned development over the site. So as development moves forward on that site, we'll be able to review it.
David?
How does this change affect the adjacent, in particular to the north and the south, the development of those properties? And what additional, if any, liabilities may it put on those properties?
It'd be that's a good question, David, with a new code, but the front yard setback, because you have a street in here, so typically it's not a transitional yard from street to street. It's a transitional yard if that wasn't a street and you were butting up against it, but because of street, so you get the setback. We don't force, typically right now, we don't force a larger setback along a street frontage unless you're part of a mid-block. Say we had a residential piece sitting in here, we would make you set back as far as that residential piece. But because it's essentially one block of land, it's kind of on an island on its own. It doesn't impose, as far as I can tell from the new code. Now, we're still trying to get acclimated to that new code, but because there's a street in there, a practice doesn't impose a higher level of setback in that area.
I hear that sense of interpretation. Is there some way to put into it that this development would have impose no additional setbacks on the property to the north and the south?
Well, it's not going to, because we also have that other standard within the new code about every structure that is either if it's a non-conforming structural setback, it's conforming, so it's treated as a conforming structure. So it wouldn't, and if you look at that's the Allrow property, I think that is pretty much already developed out to the street.
No, there's all kinds of vacant.
There's a building that comes out. There's a building line that comes out to 11th here, right? I think there's a building down here that's established a setback along here.
Actually, no.
There's no.
There's a bunch of vacant.
I thought there was a building that they built out to 11th.
I don't think it goes all the way to 11th. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do is that we don't impede, as long as those facilities are there and are viable, that we don't adversely affect them.
I see where you're coming. I don't have a direct answer right now.
I would
because of the new
suggest
code.
is there any
I didn't know that, by the way.
any sense of urgency to change the zoning of the Buckstaff property? There's nothing that's being proposed to go there, is there?
Well, I mean, we're working toward,
But there's nothing that the current zoning
Nothing
is
imminent?
impeded.
Nothing imminent?
there's.
You understand the question?
I understand where you're going with that. No, I mean, we're working towards getting that site prepped for redevelopment.
Yeah, no, I
So,
understand
yeah.
that, but we could change the zoning of that property anytime,
Yeah,
and it would not impede what you're doing currently,
but
or what you're planning to do.
But I would come back and say, the UMU, which is consistent with, our land use goals for the area, we're trying to implement those goals as well. There is no industrial use on that site anymore.
No, I understand.
The community's plans are not to reintroduce an industrial use on that site. So what we're proposing to do is fulfill community plans in repositioning that area. So that's why we're proposing to change the zoning.
Is that we don't affect the businesses to the north, and we have a combination of, I think, the school district to the, the school district. We have the old Coca-Cola plant.
Randy Davis's paint thing is to the south. Yeah.
All right, so that we don't adversely affect his use of that parcel, which there's a lot of vacant land in there.
So again, the building has established a 0-foot setback along the street line. We can do some research in between now and the next plan commission and council meeting. It's not being adopted yet. I mean, that's going to be our recommendation on this parcel. I can do some additional research and bring it back to the next plan commission meeting.
If you will, we can divide this and pull this property out and visit voting on that at a different time, could we not? If
Yeah.
that was the pleasure of the.
Could do that. I mean, I could bring it back to the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, there may be concurrence on all the, other.
Or you might be the only wild hair on it. So that's.
With that in mind, should we continue? I mean, just,
Next. All right. This next zone change this is up at the southwest corner of Harrison Street and East Packer Avenue. We originally had this zoned for heavy industrial. We took a closer look at the properties. With the properties being smaller in size, we felt that urban industrial zoning would be more appropriate with the existing uses that are currently there. This next one over here on the right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
This is Packer and,
And Harrison right here.
okay.
This is,
Okay,
Yep.
so
this is
it's the
Oshkosh
old
Corp.
Metzler?
Mhm.
That is not, that's a heavy industrial use and would not be appropriate to change that zone. And it's abutting a heavy, I couldn't support that.
I don't think there's heavy industrial in that particular site.
Yeah.
I mean, when we did when we looked at it, I don't know if there was an industrial
I don't
use
think
on
there
that
was.
site.
The old Metzler building?
The old Metzler building, but there's nothing, I thought that was, when we looked at the land use, that wasn't the case on that site. It wasn't heavy industrial. What was Jeff, what was the reason why we were proposing to do that?
We wanted to do auto sales, I believe, which
Oh,
wasn't allowed in
that's right.
HI.
And I think there's auto sales occurring in that assemblage somewhere, and it's not permitted currently, it's not permitted in the HI. So I think that's why we took a look at it.
Got, Contract Corporation on the corner
Yeah?
and doing heavy rework.
Mhm.
I
I don't think,
or rework.
what's the difference between from an industrial standpoint, from the UI and HI as far as what couldn't be developed in the proposed UI district? So we're looking at it from the standpoint of, we have a request for somebody who wants to sell cars in that area, so we're responding to that request, and we're trying not to spot zone. So when we looked at it, when we looked at this assemblage, we looked at the uses that were going on this site, and we thought that because it's not like across the street, it's not like over here, this is vacant over here, we're supporting the UI because there is not heavy industrial in that area, on those parcels. I mean, we can talk about it, we can pull it again, and we can bring it back.
Yeah, I got
I
it.
would suggest that. That would be my,
But again, we are, in this particular one as well, we're responding to a request.
well, maybe the request isn't,
Well, we thought it was reasonable, that's why we're recommending it, but yeah.
I'm not so sure that's bad, but we're getting used to these new district names. And when you say urban industrial, I've got to go fumbling through my book to really understand what that is.
Lesser setbacks.
But
Similar
right
to,
now, it's the old Metzler auto building, which Oshkosh Truck is using, right?
That's
Excuse me, Oshkosh Corp is using, but I don't know that they're using it for anything heavy, if you want to call it that. And it's storage units, and then probably just to the west of that parcel is the one that we just voted on. I've forgotten the use, plumbing, electrical.
Whiskey Electric.
Oh, yeah, Whiskey Electric. So that's not affected by this zone change, or it is?
You've got more setbacks on a heavy industrial district right now than I can tell in the urban industrial district. So if we put the HI on, you get a little bit more setbacks. The UI district, the district is intended to permit both large and small scale industrial and office development at an intensity which is consistent with the objectives of the econ. So it goes into that. The primary distinguishing feature of this district is that it's geared to indoor industrial activities which are not typically associated with high levels of noise, soot, odors, or other potential nuisances for adjoining properties. The heavy industrial district, this district intended to provide space for manufacturing and industrial operations which are potentially incompatible with residential and commercial uses. So I think what we're saying with the urban industrial is it can be compatible, which is why the request came in. It's more compatible with also allowing commercial in this area. Whereas in the heavy industrial, we're trying to focus that as industrial operations only. So I think that's the main difference, David. I know where you're getting, but I'm just telling you why we're looking at it the way we're looking at it. If you want us to come back, we can come back with an inventory of what's going on that site. We're adjacent to residential over here, so those are things that we're trying to balance out. I mean, we can put,
No, I just feel uncomfortable with that all.
we can put we put the HI tag on it. We can put the HI, we can put that tag on it. We were responding to a request, thinking the request might be reasonable. If we need to go into this more analysis, we can move on. I can bring it back next time.
Continue, Joe.
All right. Okay, this next one, this was a property that was recently annexed. It was the Olson annexation that you saw about a month and a half ago. We're proposing to rezone it from its current R1 single family to SR5 with the Lakeshore overlay district. It's compatible with all the zonings adjacent to it. A little cleanup from the annexation.
Yeah, this is a little problem just because we annexed
Yeah.
it and it's with the current zoning, so we have to change it now. So
This next one, this is the Mercury Marine property on Marion Road, just east of Wisconsin Street. We just took a look at it. It's currently zoned riverfront mixed use, and we took a look and determined probably should remain in its current form.
we're reversing.
It's currently zone M2.
Yeah, it's zoned. Yeah, I believe it's
M2.
zoned M2. The reason what happened when we were looking at drawing the maps, we were looking at the land use plans. So when we were looking at the land use plans, the comprehensive plan, we started looking at what would be the appropriate zoning. Some of these we missed. So during the course of what we're doing, we looked at it and go, it's not the right zoning. Let's change the zoning back. So with this particular one, with the Mercury Marine one, with the Lamico one, we're proposing that we change back to a consistent zoning with the new zoning code. They're both zone manufactured right now.
The Mercury site will have the riverfront overlay district on top of it. Okay. And then, as Darren mentioned, this is Lamico site. It's currently zoned urban mixed use, and we're proposing to change that to urban industrial.
Still going to be a donut hole in the middle of the Marion Road district, but hopefully something happens with that site here.
And similarly, this is the Axeltech site on High Avenue. We currently have it zoned for riverfront mixed use, and we're proposing to change that to urban industrial with a riverfront overlay. And the one
What does that mean then, if that changes hands, because that's been talked about forever? How will the zoning affect and how does the overlay?
Well, they'd have to change back to the zoning so we have to get another zoning crust moving through the system. So yeah, they just have to change the zoning. The riverfront overlay is more of a design standard. So when you're building something, we want setbacks. I'd have to look at
architectural standards.
Requirements.
It's similar in concept to like the Highway 41 concept.
All right, on the right side, this is the Oak Lawn School property. They recently acquired 3 parcels to the west of the school site. We currently had that zoned for suburban mixed use, and we're proposing to change that to institutional for planned development overlay to match with the rest of the school property. And last but not least, this is a single-family home on Linden Oaks Drive. This was part of the zinc delayed voluntary attachment from the town of Algoma, which they were given 5 years to delay actually coming into the city. On December 13th of this year, that 5-year delay will be expired and it will be essentially forced into the city. And we are proposing to change that from the R1, which was what we were originally proposing to designate it, and now we're changing that to an SR5. So that's as far as the map changes. Do you want to get into the overlay?
Can we
Or go back?
deal with these first and go to the transition?
Yeah, we'd like that. It'd be easier.
So what I'm hearing is there might be a couple that we want to pull out for further review.
I would appreciate that, please.
Let's start at the beginning then, and David
check 'em
can
off?
suggest
Okay.
what he wants to pull out.
So Poberezny and Ripple, currently zone manufacturing. We're proposing to go back to manufacturing with the PD. Number two would be the multiple family not change, but it would be retaining the multiple family over there over at Wisconsin and Church in that area. Again, we think it makes sense because they're multiple family in that area. Good. Any objections?
Yep.
Okay. Next. Here we got the water tower. The water tower and the water basin. Water basin. Any issues there? Again, institutional. Nope. Move. What is that
University
again?
parking lot.
Oh, university parking lot. We want to change that to I to reflect its use. And then again, that's over by the airport, right?
Yep, owned by EAA. It's a
Issues?
remnant.
No. Go. Okay. That
Single
is. Oh,
family.
that's that one. It's kind of a hodgepodge in there. That's why this is difficult because we don't want to put I. We don't want to tag them with an I. Institutional
No.
because it's not used. So the best. This is where we are getting a little bit spotty, but it's hard because I think it's currently zoned
It's
residential
zone
or C. It's C1.
C2
Or
actually right
C2.
now.
Yeah, C2 actually prohibits. So you okay with that one?
Yeah.
The next one I know you're okay with, so just move on from that one, right? No, you want that one. You want that one.
I would prefer to re-examine that, what the impacts are.
Is that the collective?
Sure, I'll
It
go with
wouldn't
that.
hurt. Yeah,
If we can bring it back soon enough so that you can still,
Yeah,
whole
we're
ordinance
still shooting for, yeah, okay, we'll pull that off for right now. I think we still have time because this one too, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Oh, everybody else?
might as well.
Okay,
I'm not convinced there's anything wrong with it, but there's nothing wrong with,
then we can do some more additional analysis, that's fine.
right.
These where we're moving back to an industrial zone. Good.
Well, that's what they are.
And that's the Axle Tech one.
And Oaklawn School. And this annexation.
Again, we're trying not to create wholesale amounts of nonconformities. That's what our intent is. All right. So did I get through, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we're through. We're going to pull the rest.
Well,
So,
is it appropriate to have a motion now?
we should probably, when we're done here, open it up to the public.
Oh,
for
I'm sorry.
comment.
I'm sorry.
yeah, because we're still
Forgot
presenting.
about it.
So that would make sense.
Okay.
So we want to open it up public now, then go into the next one?
That would be
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Anybody here to speak to what we just talked about?
This isn't the university.
I'm Bernie Pitts, live at 617 West Irving in Oshkosh. I own the parcels on the corner of Church and Wisconsin. You were downzoning them to single family. They,
No, we were TR10 downzoning to that's twin residential.
there's parcel at 455, 459, 529 Church, and 424 and 432 Wisconsin, and 457 Church are all my properties in that area. They were downzoning it, and the ones on Wisconsin Avenue are 4-unit buildings. The 455 and 459 are each 3-unit buildings, and the 457 is a 2-unit building, but also has a shop on it, our carpenter shop, which would be non-conforming. We're asking that you zone this, that it's multiple dwelling, the whole section there. They're all tied together. In fact, for all the buildings, there has one heating system for the entire set of buildings. And they actually, if they were sold, they'd have to all go in one parcel. So we're asking that you zone it that it's multiple dwelling, not just downzone it as what you showed in your zoning change.
Yep, and Bernie, we've talked about that. This is actually one of those cases where we do publish these things in the paper. Bernie actually reads the paper, so he came to us, he said, how is it affecting my properties, which, I wish everybody did that. Bernie came in, and we came in with a list of them, and we've been talking about this a lot. It really makes sense in this case, and that's why, we responded the way we did. So, and I think and I haven't heard any objection on this one, so I think the Plan Commission supports it, Bernie.
But we have other parcels that we want you to look at too, which,
We've talked about that, and
Okay.
I'm trying to, I can't accommodate everything, but I'm trying to accommodate as best I can, and we're going to get into that on the next round of things that we're going to talk about.
night yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else here to speak to this section of what we were talking about? Okay, seeing none, back to the commission. Kathy, can I turn the gavel over to you? I have a family situation I gotta.
Oh, sure.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Tommy Coat?
Tom, your coat?
Oh, no, I just have to.
Oh.
I guess I'd
We
like
need a
to
motion, I
make a
guess,
motion with the two that were pulled until next time.
There's two, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on these changes? Call the roll.
Hance,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Hi.
Weigert,
Aye.
Borzak,
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Next, we'll go into the university transition overlay. As you
For
can
the moment,
recall,
I'll go back here.
As you can recall, we, as part of the process of adopting a new zoning ordinance, we came up with the university transition overlay. The intent of, where's the pointer in here, Jeff?
It's a little red button.
There. The intent was looking at, what's happening in this area generally around campus, and just trying to figure out, okay, we know that this is an area that's heavily impacted by the student rental, and we're trying to deal with those areas that are heavily impacted by the student rental, and also try and prevent that encroachment, that transition, that migration into these other neighborhoods. So with the university transition overlay, what we're saying is we can promote additional density in this area, and then take out down to 3 in these other areas. So that's the proposal that we're doing with the zoning ordinance. We originally came up with this is the original proposal right now. We took it out to Jackson on the east, and we took it out to New York on the north. Now we did that because we looked at the area, and right now the area is approximately 90% non-owner occupied housing in that area. So we thought, okay, that should make a logical set of boundaries for the district. Well, after we came up with that UTO boundaries, well, there was some concern, and Shirley's going to come up and talk about it in a little bit. Concern by some of the residents in that area and some of the the historic Jackson Drive Neighborhood Association. So what we did was we developed, and you can recall at the Plan Commission meeting, Kathy tried to have us adjust some of the boundaries. But we didn't really, we didn't have anything else really drawn out as far as an alternative. Well, we went back to the drawing board and developed, I think, 8 or 9 different alternatives. And basically what we're looking for is to get some consensus on what those boundaries should be as we move forward. So if you look on the left here, this is the original proposal. Takes it out to Jackson. We didn't want to go over Jackson because we didn't want to promote that as an area for more student housing across. We didn't want to do it to promote it because Jackson is a tough arterial to get across. If you look at the area when we started to draw the alternatives, different alternatives, the green shows areas that are now owner occupied. So what we wanted to do is, okay, can we come up with an alternative that kind of preserves those areas that are owner occupied, and we'll do the areas outside of that. So option number 1, we took it down to Vine, So down Divine, we pulled it off of New York and around East Hall and took that out to Jackson. Well, there's still a concern by the Jackson Drive Neighborhood Association. So that's just one alternative. Here's another two. New York on the we'd still have the boundaries on New York on the north, but what we did was we backed off the boundaries to Wright Street and kind of move it in here. The other thing going on, there is a historic district right in this area as well. So I think we have an alternative, Jeff. You put that in there later. That kind of backs it off there. So that's one alternative. Here's another alternative. This is alternative 4. Backs it down to Vine, and again pulls it off of Wright Street and kind of pulls that area. Here's one, option 5, which if there was another option that we'd explore, option 5 is the one that we kind of prefer. But it preserves this area along New York Avenue, because you do have a lot of owner occupied in that area, and you do have some owner occupied in this particular area. So that's another option. And then we started to get a little, because it was getting late, so we were looking at really different options. We started to break it up into pods. We said, okay, we'll do a UTO over here and UTO over there. We don't really like it. We'd rather have it to be one kind of contiguous area. Same thing with option 7. You can see, same thing. But if we're going to do the UTO, we also want to have a large enough area that's going to be impactful. We're trying to again promote density in this area. And then option 8, that just backs it off to Wisconsin. And then I think our last option is we took a look at we put on the map the historic district. So here's the historic district. Again, I've said this. This doesn't affect the historic. It's not a historical district. It doesn't have architectural requirements in it. What it is a density bonus being in this area. You get a density bonus if you can prove that you have parking and some of the other standards. But here's the historic district, and what we did was we backed it down to Vine again, and then we just simply backed the historic district out of the boundaries and kept the rest of it intact. So that is our myriad of alternatives, and we are looking for some recommendation on it. I know there's some people from the public, Shirley's here, to talk about it, so we're willing to talk about anything you need to talk about.
Do we start with technical questions right now? Is that all right, Commission? Because I have a couple technical questions. Go ahead, Dave.
How does carving out the historic district to the south, I'm not sure what the correct verb is, but what kind of protection do you have for that area, or what does that allow to do or not to do, carving that out?
There was a concern about the UTO being in the historic district. As I said, the UTO it's simply a density bonus. It doesn't. We think that we have enough other protections in place, because you remember a couple of years ago we came up with the architectural proposal, the protections that we did with Lakota when we went through that whole process, the curb appeal ordinance. We still have those protections in place. What we like about the UTO is that you got to come in. If you want 5 students in a house, you got to have 5 parking spots. You got to show us 5 parking spots. I think there might be an inspection requirement in there, and there's a couple other requirements in there. That's why we think that there's enough protections in place, and we don't think you're going to see the ones that are doing it legally, wholesale people moving over and creating putting 5 students in there legally. I think there's some out there that aren't doing it legally, but that's a different story.
But where is there, as a practical matter, the real protection? We carve out the historic district, but anything can happen there. The owners can do anything.
And Shirley and the Landmarks Commission knows this. We have a weaker landmark or historic preservation ordinance. It is not strong. That's something that I know that the Landmarks Commission wants us to look at. There's also a thing that we created, that neo-traditional, what do we call it? We've changed some of the Yeah, we have that design standard district. It's called the, what is it? It is the Neo-Traditional Development Overlay Zoning District. That would be an appropriate one because that's probably stronger than, that's actually stronger than our current preservation ordinance. So we do have that potential. So if a bunch of neighbors wanted to get together and have us put that in that district, we could actually, we could get that mapped. So that's another protection. So you got that, that's out there as a district. We've got the preservation ordinance, which is currently kind of weak, and it needs to get upgraded. And so.
Okay. So carving out that area right now, is no net change as a practical matter.
In my opinion, no. I guess my one, yeah, no. In my opinion, from a land use standpoint, it's.
The only way that
As long as the rest of these are staying.
that would do, I think, what option 9 is trying to do, would be to change the zoning of that area to the
Neo-traditional.
neo-tradition. Otherwise,
I mean, that would be, I mean, again, the UTO is an overlay. So the overlay, we could put that preservation, the neo-traditional design overlay on that and have a UTO overlay on that. That would prevent that either from occurring. So just an overlay.
on that carved out section.
Yeah. The one other thing that I would like to, just for the Plan Commission's consideration, if we do one of these alternatives that actually back off the back off the boundaries from where they're currently proposed, we need to figure out, I might have to come up with a different zoning designation in those areas, because what's going to happen is you're going to have 5 over here and potentially 3 over here, and I don't like, I'd rather, if we're going to have something, there should be some type of hybrid, 5 to 4. We allow 4 via conditional use permit with the roommate living arrangement, but I think if we do that, we need to look at this as almost another type of transition area. I just got to figure out what to call it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a technical question that I hope will clear things up. Summarize the impact of the transition overlay. Tell us about the 5 and the 4 and the 3 non-relateds in a nutshell, what this means.
You just summarized it real well, Kathy. In this area, in the area where we have the UTO, you can potentially have up to 5 unrelateds in that area.
Okay, but
But you have to show you have parking, and I think there's a couple other requirements in the code. I don't
it's
know.
not automatic by
not automatic.
right to have 5
Correct.
in that area.
Correct.
Okay.
Then outside of that, what we've done in the city is everywhere else, we've gone down to 3 unrelateds.
So outside this district, it's 3 unrelateds.
3 unrelateds, yeah. Plus on top of that.
Any size home.
Plus, on top of that, and this is in single-family districts, plus we've also created that functional family definition, because there's always concerns that that there's different types of families that are now in the community, and there are. So we created a definition for a functional family, so they wouldn't get lumped into that unrelated section. Basically, what we're going at, what we're looking at was the student population being that more transient use as it moves out into these neighborhoods. We were having concern with what it was doing to the fabric of that neighborhood.
Okay, so in the transition overlay, 4 are outright permitted.
Sure. Yes. 4 is permitted.
Don't worry about parking or.
Correct. Because 4 is the current. 4 is what you're currently allowed. So we're saying, yep, 4 you can have regardless in that UTO area.
Okay. Do we have any notion about how many units are not meeting that
No.
requirement legally?
No, we have anecdotal information. It's hard to prove. We're trying to figure out how we can better get our handle on that, but it's not. Students aren't usually breaking down your door telling them that you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 people in the house. They're not telling us that because they're saving, because the price in the campus area is kind of high.
This is different. There's occasional, I'm going to call them large apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Sandwich, plunked down onto these properties. We're only talking about a house or unrelated. Those are all legal
Yes.
Conforming
The
with-
apartments,
X students in each unit.
UTO would go per dwelling unit, so apartment would be a dwelling unit, so you
Oh,
could
okay.
potentially have 5. But again, parking's going to be the issue. Especially on those on those apartment buildings in that area, and most of that area, those apartment buildings, you know how they are. They're shoehorned down in 220-foot or 250-foot lots, and the parking is almost nil there. So to add, more to bring those up to 5 persons per unit is going to be pretty tough with their footprint.
More technical questions.
Looking at the one with the historic district on, is there a reason that along Wisconsin Avenue on the west side of East Hall, you don't include this area up here where there's only the one property? Because if you look on 2, 5, 6, and 7, you have the cutout. See how it comes up and then back down? Is there a reason that it would be excluded on this one? I mean, it seems like that would be prime for the area with only one owner
No,
occupied property.
because if you go up to New York Avenue, then there's another 2 on New York Avenue. So
Well, these.
yeah, we
none
went
of-
along the backside.
Yeah, and I was just curious about what.
We could do a hybrid, John. It's when we were starting to lay out lines, we could have laid it out. What we
I
try
didn't know if
not.
that was an alleyway or what.
No.
that you're-
No, I think we
property
just
lines
tried
were
to.
actually a nice straight
I
line.
think we tried to carve it out. We try and go down the middle of the streets. We hate
Right.
going down backyards. We
Right.
just don't like it.
No, and we
It's not-
talked about that with Vine
Yeah.
when this came through the last time.
Yeah, I'd rather pull it back down the vine and just keep it there.
Okay.
But then you're creating something
And that
like
was my
this,
question,
and
was
yeah.
if that was backyards or if there was an
Yeah,
alleyway there.
yeah, we can do the backyard. It's not the cleanest, but sometimes you have to do it.
Other technical questions?
What
before
John,
we-
what John was saying is on one of the on this one, why didn't we go up to here, right, John? That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
because that's on 4
Yeah,
of your
on-
other
On
proposals.
another proposal, yeah, it comes up to here because we were carving out this frontage on New York Avenue, and this person is kind of the orphan in that neighborhood.
Other technical questions, or should we hear from the public first? Okay, we're opening it for public comment on any of these map alternatives.
Hello. My name is Shirley Brabander Mattox. I live at 1313 Jackson Street. And in April, the Jackson Street neighbors organized and became the Historic Jackson Drive Neighborhood Association. And the name was very specifically argued. There were 10 names that people were tossing about, and everybody insisted it had to be historic. And they wanted drive in there because that was going back in time. We were Jackson Drive, and it was a place that people admired. I didn't know it, but when people would say, "Oh, you live on Jackson Drive," I thought, "Oh, it must have been special at one time." So we formed the neighborhood because of what you're seeing, and we realized this. I've lived there 30 years. I've got neighbors that have been there 40 and 50 years, all the way down the street. Connie Berner has been there. She's 92. She's been there over 40 years. But we just said something has to happen because the homes that we live in were built at a time when quality materials were used, when William Waters designed homes, when we were using old growth timber. These were the homes of our professionals. And when I brought the petition to the city council about 3 weeks ago, I kind of elicited what was important, and I said, well, it was built in many architectural styles. There are no two homes the same. They have character and quality, and with a bit of maintenance and loving care, I think this could become, once again, a magnificent gateway into the city. You know, people drive 3.5 miles until they get to Murdoch, and I'm not sure that it's worth the drive, but when they get to Murdoch, it's finally, this is a neighborhood. This is Oshkosh. And people that built those residences were community leaders, the Morgans, the Goulds, the Burgess, all these homes have names of people that were people in the community, business owners and officers. They were educators, contractors, and they were all family homes. This is basically the first impression, and when visitors come through, people are deciding, is this even a place I want to bring my business, open a business? It's that first impression, and it gives people a sense of the pride that people have in their history, in the way that they built their homes. You talked quite a bit about that historic district. There are 147 homes in that historic district. There are 3 that are non-contributing, and the rest were considered at the time that the district was established. So it's a huge section of homes, and 50% of them are Queen Anne style. The Morgan House is one of them. That's probably the premier Queen Anne style. The vision of our neighborhood is to support the maintenance and beautification of our neighborhood, to encourage home ownership in the central city, and to protect the investment in our homes. I think Oshkosh has to be lauded for taking on and realizing that the neighborhoods are the strength of our city, and realizing that we need to encourage home owners, families back in the neighborhood to give stability. So once again, the home ownership is important. I guess when you get to a certain age, you've got a different kind of way of looking at history and what happens, a vision. And that East Hall Park on the corner of Jackson and New York, it belongs to the university. But maybe in 10 years, maybe in 15 years, the university may decide that serves no purpose. It's over there. And the neighborhood has looked at that and said, this could be the one spot for a gathering, a green gathering space. If you think about Stevens Park and the revitalization that has happened in that neighborhood, and that park is central to that. So in a long-term vision, we could see that is instrumental. So when you're looking at this option 9 that Darren drew up, the neighborhood goes right around that. It's maintaining that. I'm just looking at one place. When you come at the south part of that, there are those 4 homes all along the south edge are all owner-occupied. Julie Johnson lives on Wisconsin and Prospect, and then the home behind it, Dave Hodge used to live there, and he lived there over 40 years, but that's painted real dark. But those 4 homes, I believe, are all owner-occupied. And the benefit of living on a square or on a park in the future could be phenomenal. Okay, so I thank you for including that. The historic homes in this area can never be rebuilt again. We don't have the materials, that old growth timber, the quality of craftsmanship, the brick masons, the stone masons. We can't do it again. And so to just kind of you throw up your hands and say, my gosh, it looks like it's all gone rental, let's just give it to the kids. I guess maybe we want to be a little cautious. A neat thing is happening. We've got lots of educated young people moving to the city, working in some of our industries, in some of our wonderful businesses, and they live downtown. That's where they want to live. They want to live in the central city. They treasure the river walk. And can you imagine what we're going to be developing there? So life is going to center around the central part of the city. And smart growth is reinventing what we already have, our past, our history. So these young professionals, I could see eventually, it's like when you live in Manhattan and you get married and you have a kid, you have to move out of your one bedroom. And I could see them wanting a unique, quality, old, characteristic home of another era. And I think they go for quality today. A group, Oshkosh is known for artists. A woman just moved here from Madison, bought a house because she heard that this is where the artists are growing. It's a real artistic movement, and she wanted to be here part of it. And she's an artist. So, I think we've got things that are percolating, and we don't want to destroy the potential there. The university, they have about 13,000, at least a couple years ago that's what they had. I don't think they're any more than that. But I was just talking to friends that were all excited. They were sending their kid to Oshkosh, first time away from home. And they trust that the university is going to educate their kid, quality teachers, good programs, that they're going to safeguard their kid. These people are living off in other parts of the state, and that they're going to guide their kid. Well, when you have them in the dorm, you have a nice element of guiding the growth of these kids. They're kids. They're 18, 19 years old. And then all of a sudden when they're 20, you throw them out and then just say, okay, take over. There's a city over there and just move in. And I didn't buy a house till I was in my mid-40s. It's a lot of responsibility. It's different than living in a dorm room where you close the door and everybody takes care of you. And all of a sudden, we've had these wonderful homes. Amherst Avenue was almost 100% university professors living there. And I had spoken with Rick Wells years ago about having an incentive to attract good professors, offer them an incentive to live in the university area, buy a house and keep the incentive going. But they have a good effect on the kids that live around them. You need some grown-ups so that it doesn't become whatever. I think when the city looks at rentals as being 50% of the entire city, we have to step back and say something happened, and we want to put the reins on it. I think our neighborhood program's doing that, but I don't know that we want to I think we want to be real conservative when we draw that overlay. And we can always give the university kids more, but I think at this point we don't want to throw the doors wide open. And so we want to start off conservatively. And the people that still live there, that own homes, if you drive around, I spent hours. And you look at the people that still live there, own the home, and take care of it. And we look at home values. And I think our vision should be to reclaim, maybe one by one, and have pockets where homeowners can live near the university if they want to walk to school and teach. I did a study of rental properties in university historic districts. I'm never completely finished with anything, but I think that I found the same story everywhere. Auburn, Alabama, Syracuse, New York, Ithaca, Hampton, Connecticut, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Winona, River Falls, Wisconsin. They all are dealing with this transition. What do you do? And you won't believe what some of them are putting moratoriums on this. Some of them are going from they're cutting way back. You're going up to 5. They were cutting back from 3 to 2 and say, look, these are single family homes. So it's like we're not the only people that have realized this problem and trying to deal with it. But I think there are lots of possibilities out there. And I don't know, I know, Darren, you study a lot. But I'm not sure that we've finished the study yet. No, with this new proposition. Darren had kindly given me, the maps. We put it on our neighborhood website. Well, when you try to connect with 125, 130 people, and some of them found a difficulty getting to our website, and we're working on that. So my next project was to meet with people and show them the maps. And basically, what they were hoping for was to safeguard as much as you could. In fact, even if you could pull it over to Wisconsin, on the extending Wisconsin to the that south border on the west side. But I think that.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Is there one of these 9 maps that the neighborhood association or you prefer for some reason?
Well, what we really took, I think it was number 7 and number 8, and because we wanted to safeguard that historic district on there. And let's see, where's my set right here? Okay, number 7 has the historic district.
This one does, surely. 9 does.
That's 9, right, number 9. And see, that was added after you gave us the 8.
That was added.
Yeah, right. But this is what people were talking about. If we could combine, I think it would have been 7 and 8. And we wanted 8. The 8 part goes down, right? See, along East Hall, the green space, and then it comes straight down. And then the one thing that was missing in 8 is what you have in 7. It extends over to the historic district along Irving. So I think you've basically, right. So does that give you a sense of what the neighborhoods were thinking about, or our neighborhood?
I don't know if you were looking at Darren when he was drawing the
Yeah.
the line here.
I was, and that's what they were asking.
So that's, you would like it pulled over to Wisconsin, so it goes down like that. So then Darren outlined what we've been talking about.
Right. No, I believe on Wisconsin there are some non-conforming.
Okay, all right.
Right. I think on Wisconsin there are non-conforming 16 plexes or whatever that have been. But so that I don't know how you deal with that, but we're concerned about the single-family, well-built homes in that neighborhood. That this whole area be considered for further consideration.
Are there questions for Shirley? Not right now, I guess. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak about these 9 alternatives for the transition district? Anybody else want to speak? Gotta go. Well, then we'll close the public comment on these maps right now. Commission? I find there are far too many alternatives. That's my problem.
I'll try to give you enough.
I just want to say, pertaining to what Shirley was just saying, I actually think she's got a point as far as, one of the things we were discussing is we're trying to contain all of this. And I can definitely see where she was coming from as far as moving the line to Wisconsin Avenue on the historic district map. And as far as my personal opinion, that's the one I would be in favor of. I just want to put that out there so we at least have a start of discussions.
David?
But the historic district is the black line, right?
Correct.
So it's not going up and down Wisconsin.
It goes to the historic district on Wisconsin and then goes around the historic district, correct?
I'm missing something.
We just carved this. This is a carve out.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we're not, John, are you suggesting that it goes to the north then?
He's suggesting that this line goes over here to Wisconsin Street.
And then it's,
No, and then everything to the east becomes a historic district?
No, everything to the east becomes, well, we'd have to figure out how to deal with it, but right now it's three, it'd go down to
Okay.
3.
Okay. My thought is when you look at, there's, to the east of Wisconsin Avenue, there's a handful, there's like 5 houses that are privately owned. Or owner occupied. I mean, I don't know if that becomes a practical consideration or not to move
Map
in.
shows a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to see. And that's kind of and then that, I don't have all the alternatives. That shows our latest grid is 2016. The green is the owner occupied zone. So if you have any questions on it, if that helps, I'll just bring it up.
So remain confused. I will always be confused. The overlay offers
It's a density bonus.
4 persons by right.
Correct.
But out here, it's 3 people.
Correct. Except if you.
And so if we pull the boundary over to Wisconsin, then this is only 3 people
This would only be 3 people.
per
but-
unit.
Per unit, but we have the roommate living, I mean, there's ways to deal with 4 in that district, in that you can come through the roommate.
And with a
living-
functional family.
The roommate, no, the roommate living.
Oh,
arrangement.
roommate-
Functional family, that's
Oh, all
that
right.
pretty much covers citywide, but roommate living arrangement could get up to 4. Through a conditional use.
Okay. And then this central section, then we make it really small, is the 5
That's the
permitted,
that's the density bonus area.
5 permitted, but they have to have parking.
Yep.
and-
Correct. I think we need to maybe
4
look at
permitted
that
by
again
right.
and see, maybe, I don't know how, those are smaller lots too, so I don't know how they can fit it on it. Am I off?
So you're off.
I'm off. Yeah. All right, I'm back.
Well, that's understandable.
All right, so yes, within UTO, it's 5 with standards. Outside of it, it's 3. Everywhere else, it's 4 with conditional use permit.
But you said 4 was permitted by right
4 is permitted in the UTO.
in the UPO. That's right.
UTO, correct. 5 is the bonus, so you get one
But
more.
no conditional use permit for 4.
Correct.
Just 4 is okay.
Correct.
But the 5 is a conditional use.
No, 5 is not a conditional use in UTO. It's just you have to meet the standards, which is parking.
Well, but we
Generally
have to know
parking.
about you.
We have to know about you. That's a whole another problem.
What's the advantage or the disadvantage of starting out small, the way John and the neighbors are suggesting?
The only issue is going to be the edge between the two. You know, the concern is what goes on, and what are we doing to these people in here? So, I mean, I don't think there's a disadvantage to starting small, because then at least we can tinker with it a little bit to figure out what do we need to change, how do we need to change it, things like that. So I don't think it's
What do you mean, what are we doing to the people
the
east
one
of this
the,
district?
the ones the ones who are butting up right against it. See, we had trying to draw a line for the district along an arterial. You got along Jackson and arterial. This is a collector. So we tried to pick a kind of a
Right.
major street.
Right.
Now what we're doing is you're putting the boundary of this in
Well, it's on a street.
Yeah, but it's not on a major street. So that's what we were trying to. We were trying to look at the boundary. Jackson, we know, is a major street running through this area, but it'd be on. It's on the street, but I think it'd work. I mean, is there going to be an impact from having 5 over here to moving to
If
3
we have
over?
5 over
If you have 5 over there, correct. That's correct. That remains to be seen how well that this is going to be able to be used.
But we're going to have 4 there for sure.
4 here for sure.
And in this, between whatever that street is,
Which one?
that one there,
This is right.
right, between Wright and
Jackson.
Jackson, There's only 3?
It would be three, well, no, because we'd be peeling back the boundaries. So you'd have 4 and everything that's currently used for 4 people is non-conforming. That remains 4. The others that are not at 4 unrelateds, the new rental, that'd be down to 3. But you could bounce it up to 4 with the conditional use permit under the roommate living arrangement. Mhm.
In the
Or we create another zone.
area, the historical district in black.
Yes.
That remains at 3.
That would remain, yeah, that would bump down to 3, except for the existing uses that, where they're in there, they're gonna be in there at 4. You have the non-conforming provisions you gotta deal with too.
Okay.
It's not an easy situation that we're trying to get, this is a complicated situation. We know that there's an issue. We know that the status quo is not having any, it's not stopping occurring what we don't want occurring in some of these neighborhoods around there. So we're trying, this is something new for us. We've not tried it before. We've not looked at density before, but we know that the status quo is not working. It's not preventing some of this pattern from occurring. We want to, if you look at the map in 2000, we have that map in 2000, you see a dramatic change. That's what we're concerned with it. And that's why we tried to say, we want to promote some additional density in this area, while at the same time, everywhere else, reducing the density. We were trying to balance it.
But you said some places are already renting.
They're renting at 4, they're non-conforming. They can continue to rent at 4. That's a hard one to get.
As of the date that this ordinance
Correct.
is enacted.
Correct. That's why the density is a tough one. It's a tough, regardless
Well,
of
and the
what is.
non-conforming is a tough one in terms of who's conforming, who's non-conforming. If you say we really don't know,
What we know.
legally no, I mean, we don't know who's legally.
We have we have a hard time dealing with if there's 6 people in the dwelling right now, we're having a hard time dealing with it. But the answer is not to not try and do something, to try and
Right.
attempt to do something. The answer is to try and figure out a better way and more efficient way to figure out how many people are living in a dwelling.
Not to introduce one more problem, but with the new rental ordinance, will that tell you how many people are living in?
No, we can't ask that question. It can only be voluntary. But there's going to be they're going to want to give us an incentive to do that. To say, yeah, I got 4 people living in my house. What we think it's going to do is all these areas that are currently green, we're hoping that it just preserves those in green, and that if it does flip over to a rental, then it becomes 3 people in that rental. We know pretty much on the ground what's going on with owner-occupieds.
I've monopolized a lot of this discussion, people, but
It's not an easy question. I mean, Shirley's right.
There are a lot of questions we all had that have just been answered, though. So it's not like you're monopolizing it for your own.
It's a difficult situation. When Shirley talks about other communities doing things, La Crosse has tried it with 2. There's other communities that have 2. Green Bay, throughout the city of Green Bay, has 3. So all university communities are dealing with it in other areas. La Crosse, in a historic neighborhood that's predominantly owner-occupied, they lowered it to 2 to try and to prevent it from becoming a student campus area.
And one of our discussions when this originally came through also was some members were talking about going east of Jackson, and then we were talking about the concern of that being a gateway to the city, and how it's already deteriorated. Do we want to extend that over? So,
Well, I'm concerned on the east side of Jackson because I just don't want that, the crossing of Jackson is another difficulty.
and my thought with keeping it smaller to start with is we can adjust on the fly. It's not like we're locking this in for life. This is something. It's better to start out and not overdo it than it is to overdo it and then have to try to pull it back.
Yep.
And that's my thought on this. It's actually.
Or the alternative is to scrap the UTO and just go 3 throughout the city like Green Bay. I mean, that's another alternative.
Well, and I think I understand, but what I'd like to see is a key, with the definition. I think by this initial map going up and down Jackson, is that Jackson was going to be the firewall, and that New York is going to be the firewall.
Correct.
Or Vine, whatever.
Correct.
Is in some respects, is how do we make that firewall as strong as possible? I don't have an answer, but that's a rhetorical question.
We're all community, a lot of our campus communities, and university towns are struggling with that.
Do we have to come to a decision on this tonight?
It's either that or we don't map it.
Sorry?
It's either that or we don't map it. I mean, we can bring something back to the next. I can bring something back to the next meeting. We still have time. We haven't adopted.
I'm
We haven't
not trying to
adopted
do-
a
you know,
zoning
We do
ordinance.
have those other two things, too, I think, that we're gonna talk about next time. This is an awful lot to absorb. Are the rest of you ready to make a decision, or would you prefer that, can we
We don't have to
Can
map
we
it.
settle in on a couple of preferred options if we do that, so that we're not looking at 9 different, or maybe we're not ready to do that?
Or
Commission.
we're ready to map. If we're not ready to map this, this is a concept that we can't deal with, then we don't have to map it. We can create the district and not map it yet.
I don't feel badly mapping.
No, I don't either.
And we've talked about a lot of variables, and really, for me, the concept is not what happens to the river, east of, whether it's west of Wisconsin or west of Jackson, it's what happens east of those dividing lines. That's more important in some respects than and how we deal with that.
Well, I think he's just said, east of the dividing line, it's better for the neighborhood, because it's 3 permitted, 4 under roommate living arrangements, right?
Correct.
And no outright permitted 4. So it has to either be 3 or 4 under the roommate living thing, which is permitted, so we know about it.
Correct.
So I think outside these boundaries, I think, is the firewall.
Well,
Which is what we're trying to do with the.
and then I'm sort of leaning with John's feeling is that that we look at Wisconsin.
So Wisconsin is one
The right
option,
or
or this
Wisconsin.
current one is right.
This
That's,
is right. This is Wisconsin. So we can bring back another proposal, but if there's more information that you want, tell me that right now so we can have it for the next meeting. Anything?
is
Something
there
that I can-
anyone that hasn't spoken that wants to offer a comment?
Pretty much it's been said pretty much what I've been thinking. I mean, there's a lot of things to grasp. There's a lot of maps on the table, you know.
We give you alternatives.
I kind of like the one we got right there, is option 9, but there's, like I say, there's other options that could be worked into it.
Well, this is a tweak of this option, moving it over to
Right.
Wisconsin.
We
John
have-
Kiefer?
Come back to it with Wisconsin being included in it, and also that parcel that we talked about earlier up by Jackson Field up here.
Well,
There, that we weren't including or not including if what we're gonna do with that little parcel.
John was looking at this one.
Not much left there.
So
And then maybe having it stay at Wright Street, including keeping Wisconsin in there.
Right,
There's
Wisconsin.
only 4 to 5 owner occupied there now, and a lot of existing university housing along Wisconsin, butting up against the backside of Wright. I think we have a lot of non-conforming properties along that area if we move it out to Wisconsin and have it.
Yeah, we do.
So that's I'd like to know more what we're looking at in those areas. What do we have now, and as far as owner occupied along Wisconsin, east and west of Wisconsin, either side.
Does anybody have a map other than a variation on this one that they would like the staff to focus on next time? And we are down to just 5 of us, so I'm thinking we should
Part of my thing was going to
definitely lay it
suggest that maybe
over.
we bring it back just so we have more eyes and
Well,
and minds on it too.
We're a minimum number here.
I know.
It's not fair to make a decision like this.
Right.
So I'll entertain a motion to guide the staff, or to have,
You don't need that.
We don't
Just
need
tell-
one?
Just tell me what, I mean, if you want us to pinpoint on these two options, we'll look at that. We'll bring something back.
okay? All right, why don't we do that? The Wisconsin.
Wisconsin and Wright Street one.
And the Wright Street, which is
Yeah.
essentially this map, but just move it over a little.
I'll make a motion to that we look at those two options at our next meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Jeremy,
Yes.
David?
could you at least have some verbiage or understanding of this neoclassical, if we put that overlay on in that carved out district?
Yeah.
Or is that-
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something
and
we're gonna.
Summarize again what the
or
UTO
is
means.
that a whole
in
different?
nutshell.
That's about a 20-page ordinance, so there's a lot, I can summarize it, but there's a lot in there. I mean, that is akin to a
We have a-
landmarks, a historic preservation ordinance. And to put that on, that's a lot of design requirements. I know someone would surely love it, but that would be something I'd want to have coming in from the neighbor. That's something that's significant enough. I'd want to have some input from the neighborhood on that one.
That's
I mean,
fine.
I want to input on a neighborhood regardless, but that one goes really far from an architectural control standpoint.
Okay, and then please summarize the questions I ask with the answers again in the staff report.
Okay.
So we fully understand that.
Okay. All right. Moving on
we
to
have
the
a
next topic.
workshop coming.
Oh, we still have a
That's
little
not
bit of.
quick workshop.
Oh, no, we don't. We're not doing. We still have ordinance language to discuss.
Oh, good lord.
So-
Okay, I'm sorry.
Jeff, did you put that
Right,
up there?
going on.
No.
All right, going on. Now, as part of the staff report, we also have. You didn't put that in there.
Very nice.
Zoning ordinance text changes. So go to page. Enough pages. After
After the map?
after the maps, what we're proposing is some changes to the text of the zoning ordinance, and in the course of looking at what we were doing as far as everything with the mapping, we had looked at. I have to get these maps. When we were changing the zoning from an R2 category to a SR category, what we saw is we were creating a number of nonconformities. What we didn't want to do is have to do what we deal with all the time, is deal with all these nonconformities where people want to come back and change the zoning. Okay, so you see all the green. These are the areas that the greens are in areas that we're proposing to change to an SR9 or an SR5 single family. Currently there are R2 zones. They contain a number of duplexes, duplexes in two states. Duplexes on the lots here that are green, they're conforming duplexes. So if we change the ordinance and adopt as we're proposed the language, they become non-conforming. We want to prevent that from occurring because we don't want to.
Right.
You know what we have to deal with every time somebody wants to sell a house. So we've come up with some ordinance language to deal with it without just turning the whole neighborhood open to R2. We've come in with some language to deal with this situation. Now, within those districts, the same map, contain these. These are the existing duplexes that are currently non-conforming. So, in the current R2 zoning district, all these areas, all these lots are non-conforming, not because they have a two-family house on it, because they don't meet the standards of the two-family district, which means they're on lots of record that are under 60 feet in area, or under 60 feet in width, or under 7,200 square feet in area. When we did the 97 zone change, or before, that language got incorporated into the district. It was before me, but as long as I've been here, that language has been in place. So all these lots right now with uses on them are currently non-conforming under the current zoning ordinance because if they don't meet the design standards. So what we're proposing to do with the ordinance language is the suggested zone change in the R2 district. What we're proposing to do is in the SR5 and SR9 zoning district, you can follow along, add the following language under permitted uses by right. Number 9, existing conforming two-family uses on existing lots of record with 60 feet or more of lot width and 7,200 square feet of lot area. So what that does is makes all those conforming in that district. And then to deal with some of the red ones that are already non-conforming in that area, What we're proposing to do is not outright permit them, but what we're proposing to do is add the following language under principal uses permitted as a conditional use. 10, existing conforming two-family uses on lots of record with less than 60 feet of width or 7,200 square feet. So what we're trying to do is say, and when you do a zone change, anybody who's made non-conforming by the ordinance change can come through and get a conditional use permit. And what I don't want to have to do, during the last time, I think in '97, we issued a bunch of conditional use permits with that change. All these uses are already non-conforming, and what it allows you to do is, on some of these real small lots where you don't have parking or you don't have something going on, it allows the Plan Commission to take a look at it under the conditional use provisions to get those into a compliance standpoint. So what we're taking is a bunch of already non-conforming uses that were created under the previous code and giving that ability to allow those to be permitted via the conditional use process. So.
The first one is a no-brainer because it takes the green and makes them conforming.
Correct.
So everybody's going to be happy.
Correct.
This next suggestion is
Take it.
100 people, 300 people would have to come in for conditional use permits?
Because they're already, remember, they're already non-conforming. Already non-conforming use. So that would mean if you come in and get if something would happen, you tear it down, something like that, from a use standpoint, you couldn't rebuild it because you don't meet the standards of the ordinance.
They're non-conforming under our current ordinance,
Correct.
let alone the one that we're just about to.
The one that we're, yeah. So they're currently non-conforming. What I'm trying to do with this provision is to allow them a path to become conforming through a conditional use permit. Unless you just want me to blanket allow those things that are currently non-conforming, we could write similar language. It's
So if they were to go to sell or do other improvements or something, they would have to file for a conditional use permit then?
correct. Which should currently be the case because they are non-conforming.
If they do nothing, if it just remains as is, they don't have to do anything.
Correct. Correct. I mean, non-conforming. I mean, the big issue with non-conforming is when you go to sell. I mean, that becomes the big issue because right now, if you're non-conforming use, you can maintain it up to 50%. I mean, there's a bunch of protections that are placed in there. The only issue that you run into is when it goes away, when it gets torn down, things like that. And naturally, in some of these lots, if it goes away, if you're on a 40 by 20 lot and you're a duplex or a triplex on there, to put back one of those, I think you're squeezing a lot onto a small lot. But we tried to give a path to make it work with the non-conforming ordinance, with the non-conforming section. David?
Even with the pathway of a non-conforming, in some respects, these are some that we may want to go away.
There might be some in there. That's why we have the conditional use provisions in there. That at least they come through some type of review. Because right now it's non-conforming. That's non-conforming.
All right. Okay, any other questions? Then there. Can we move along and then we'll ask for public comment?
Yep. The rest of the changes that we're proposing in ordinance really relate to those sections where we had put in the ordinance about things would end at the conditional use permit or a plan development review would end at the Plan Commission. Well, we had heard some concern, even though we've been working on this for 3 years, so we thought we were going in the right direction. There's some concern that some still wanted to move to council, so we changed all the language that would currently stop a conditional use permit at the Plan Commission or an implementation plan. We've created 2 sections for plan development, or specific implementation plan that would stop at the Plan Commission. This simply eliminates that and everything moves.
Everything goes to the council.
Correct.
All right, got it.
So those are the two.
That's their prerogative, so.
Correct.
Um,
Yep.
Confusing. Anybody from the public want to speak to these suggestions? Ernie? We're talking about these conforming or non-conforming
That's one with Bernie.
properties here.
Bernie has some.
I have some of them.
Okay.
There is one on Parkway in Monroe, which it actually is 3 units. It was originally was a tavern, an apartment on the second floor, and a retail space, which was originally a refrigeration repair. And the lot is a very small lot. The building almost consumes the entire lot. The lot is only 46.5 by 55 feet. The way it is, if you pass the ordinance the way it is, the building will become worthless. And if you're going to make it worthless, there's no sense in me paying for the street that was just put in or the taxes beyond this point. Because
Right, so how do these two suggestions that
how
you
does
made
that?
help you?
Because if they make the existing buildings conforming, or that you don't have to go through a lot of hurdles, that would help us. But I don't know how to address it.
Are these gonna help Mr. Pitts' situation?
He's got a tough one on Parkway because it's like he said, it's a small lot. So right now, it's existing non-conforming. So coming through back forward to make it compliant, you would have to go through conditional use permit on that one.
You'd have to what?
Conditional use permit on that one.
Okay.
The
There's,
alternative, I laid them both out. There's the green that we're making conforming with the ordinance language. If you want, we can write, I mean, what we're trying to do is come through, because there are situations like Bernie out there that I think we, irrespective, we might want to take a look at them, because again, there might be too much, the lot might not be able to handle additional density at some point. Bernie, in Bernie's case, he also has a former tavern, which he could potentially even put his 3 units back in there, potentially, because it would be an adaptive reuse of an old tavern structure. So it's he doesn't fall, that one particular one doesn't fall neatly into the category, other than I can tell you it's a non-conforming, and the path to get it to be conforming would be conditional use permit.
But there's,
So in other words, if we pass these two ordinance changes, then with that particular property, if you wanted it conforming, you'd have to come in to get a conditional use permit. And then, I don't know how dicey that is. And what if we deny, what if he does that? He comes in and the plan commission denies the conditional use permit, then what?
It's one unit.
it is.
Right now, it's one unit, and
Oh, it's not one unit. It's each unit has a front and a rear entrance.
We've had
And you can't get from one to the other without going outside and coming in a different door.
we're not going to get into this discussion, because you and I have discussed this. From our standpoint, it can only be used for one unit. I know what you're saying, how it's structurally set up, but it goes back to a use. It has to be being used for that particular purpose,
For which particular purpose?
for residential.
Yeah, well, it's got 3 different addresses on it.
Address doesn't constitute it doesn't make somebody living in it. So
Okay, so,
we've gone. You and I have talked about this before. You know that.
so this Bernie, your situation is an example of a very difficult situation.
That's correct, but I'm saying, if you say it's a one-family structure, there's no sense in me paying taxes on it anymore, and there's no sense in me paying for the street. I paid for the street already on Monroe, and now I'm coming up with the bill for Parkway, and they tore out part of my Monroe Street, which I have to pay for again, because the city, the sewage district put a different type of sewer in the street, And they tore out part of Monroe Street, so I again will have to pay for that again. And, you know, what's the sense of paying for it if you can't use the property? It makes no sense. It's a bill of close to $5,000 again, plus the taxes, and I already paid almost $4,000 for the one street. It doesn't. Me and my son own that property together, and there's no sense us continuing on paying the city taxes. We might as well just walk away from it, and then the city can do what they want with it, because it's of no, as a single family, it's of no value.
And all I'm saying, Bernie, is we're not changing the status of it, because right now we consider that to be a non-conforming use.
The non-conforming use came when without anybody knowing it, they changed the square footage of the lots. That's what made it non-conforming, which there are many in the city of Oshkosh, 50-foot lots that are non-conforming because they changed it without, it's just like this particular zoning that's going through now. The individual property owners were not notified of any of these changes. I was not notified, and in the paper, all you had was that you were rewriting the zoning, and I came up and questioned it, the same as I did the last time they had a zoning, and I was told that it was all okay. But now I find that what they did, that's before you were here. Okay, now what they've done is they also wrote into that ordinance that there was so many square feet had to be in the lot or it was non-conforming. But that wasn't brought up when I talked to the previous party from the zoning. They made, for instance, where our construction lot was, which was on 3rd and Dakota, they downzoned it from heavy industrial to M2 and never notified us. But all that time, from way back when, the city was talking of buying that property. Now, they bought it as M2, which is a lesser value than heavy industrial. So they really cheated me. They shorted me, and I don't want this to happen again. Now, it isn't just this parcel that we're talking about. Now that the city bought that property, I had to move because they took it under eminent domain. And I bought a piece on Minnesota, which now they're going to, and it runs through to Montana. It's 2 different lots, but back to back. The lot on Minnesota is 88 foot wide by 135 feet. The lot on Montana is only 44 feet by 135, so that makes that lot not buildable, because in your ordinance that you got today that you're coming up with, you're saying you have to stay 20 feet away from the sideline, 30 feet back from the front, and 25 feet from the rear, which means I could put a 4-foot wide building up on the property. Now, I just paid the road off that they put on Montana, which they had put sewer and water and storm sewer and all this in there, and they charged me for it. But I can't use the lot. But I can use even the lot that's on Minnesota, and according to your ordinance today, it has to be 150 feet wide. And that's what it says in.
Bernie, we also put a provision in the ordinance where we provide blanket conformity to non-conforming structures and lots in the ordinance. So we recognize that with the ordinance change that was going to be a problem. So what we did is we provided a blanket conforming status to all existing non-conforming lot, anything that was being made a non-conforming lot or setback. I believe that's the language.
Okay, but now if we wanted to put something up on the lot, it's 2 separate tax parcels. On the Montana Street, we own straight through. It's only 44 feet wide.
Well, would he?
What is our setback gonna have to
Well,
be?
would he have access to the Board of Zoning Appeals
Well,
then?
he always
or-
has access to the board of zoning appeals. So it's us looking at his lot and seeing where is the lot already developed with the building and taking a look at that being the dimensional nonconformity. So where the building is, he's already established the setback, so you can, so that should be the setback you can build off to. But again, this is something we've sat down and talked with many times, Bernie, so we'll have to talk about it again. You know, we've been trying
Yeah.
to make things work out
Subdivision.
better with the new ordinance. I mean, I can't,
Well,
I
you've
don't-
raised some good questions here. Any other questions for Bernie? I guess not.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else that wants to speak on this ordinance changes? Anybody else on these non-conforming changes? Okay, back to the commission. Well, people, David, all right.
Motion?
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to discuss all the zoning ordinance language. Okay, discussion.
I feel confident or comfortable with the second part of the red lots, that there is a pathway to get a conditional use permit. So I think that in the very specific issue brought up on the Parkway, site, that there is a strategy to allow him to use his parcel to the fullest way. So I feel comfortable with the rewrite language is.
Anybody else? Comments? Are you ready to vote?
Ready to vote?
Okay, and then, of course, the other item is the city council wants final approval, and, hey, that's their call, so. Call the roll then, please.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Borzak,
Aye.
Aye.
motion carried 5-0.
Now,
now we can adjourn.
So move.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We still have this little.
Yeah, well, these gentlemen have been waiting patiently
I'm sorry.
for 2 hours.